What's happening, man? My name's Cory Stone. I'm here with my dog Cody Kirmss. He's also a mixing and mastering engineer. He's an artist as well. We're gonna do a few questions and answers for you, as well as, you know what I'm saying, just take topics from the audience over here. So let's get it.
So first question. I know when I'm doing when I'm recording my vocals, especially when I first start to record them, and I'm trying to blend everything in. I always have an issue with either my vocals being too quiet or too loud, but not necessarily once they're loud, too loud, but they cover up a section of the beat. Like my bass will be really loud and my hi-hats will be good, but my mid-range will be covered up by the vocals of the music. So how would you go about bringing that mid-range up in the music without covering the vocals, or vice versa if you had the opposite problem?
Use sidechain compression. You know what I'm saying? Put a C4 on the beat. This is what I would do. You know what I'm saying? Put a C4 or any multi-band compressor on the beat and drag your vocals to it and make your vocals the sidechain input. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
And then make your input on your compressor the sidechain input as well, so that as soon as your vocals get loud, you know what I'm saying, in the mid-range part, your beat's gonna kind of duck, or vice versa. Or just tweak it a little bit like that. You know what I'm saying? That'll usually work. Multi-band compression is definitely the way to go. But you don't want your music to actually be the trigger. You would want your vocals, because whenever your vocals aren't coming back, you know what I'm saying? Whenever your vocals aren't hitting in the mid-range section,
right,
you definitely want the mid-range and the beat to be full, or to the point that it was going to be without your vocals ducking it.
Gotcha. So my next question, it has to do with painting techniques. So it's kind of we all know to give everything its own place, to create space. So you got background vocals left and right the same way, and if you do anything else, you make space. But there's EQ involved in that as well. So really, what are your techniques and pointers for panning techniques, and maybe not even just panning techniques, but creating space with things without making everything full and everything over everything?
So I'll definitely use discretion whenever you're doing it, but you want to have everything having its separate place. So a panning plugin like S1, or even if you turn the Reaper pan law to stereo and then you have the width knob, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Using those and panning them to a specific location and narrowing in on the width of it does something, you know what I'm saying, that you can't really do with EQ.
Right.
But then a general rule of thumb is keep your fucking lows off the sides. So if you have a mid-side processor like a EQ or compressor, you could compress or EQ the lows out of the side channels and only keep them in the middle. And that alone makes an image, you know what I'm saying?
All of a sudden everything down.
Yeah, anything below 200 you want to keep mono.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rule of thumb for me.
For sure. Things slap straight up the middle.
Yeah.
And then you guys, it's you.
And then panning, obviously.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Panning obviously is a huge thing, but taking it one step further is controlling the width of the pan. You know what I'm saying? Controlling what you're putting on the left or the right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So my next question kind of comes off the last one with the imaging and the panning and creating space and stuff. Talk to me about multiverbs and when you use them on a vocal, first of all.
Using multiple reverbs?
Yeah, multiple reverbs, and how you would use it without having way too much reverb.
So you use multiple reverbs to create textures and stuff and make it where it doesn't just sound all just there. You know what I'm saying? The vocal's not just the same throughout the entire time. That doesn't mean you put multiple reverbs on and leave them on the entire time. You would still use automation and EQ. Take most of your lows out of a reverb if you're just using it as an alternate reverb. Your main one, you can keep some of the lows on.
Right. So your secondary reverb, you would say that you would use more of the higher.
Right. But still cut out your highs too. I'm never letting any of my reverbs go beyond 6K. You feel me?
Okay.
Or below 350 hertz.
Okay.
So, and then using a long decay time on one or a short decay time on the other.
Mm-hmm.
Then just messing with the pre-delay times. You just create textures and different ambiances. Try to make it sound like it's in the space that the beat was made in.
Right. So besides just having that reverb, and say it's your secondary reverb, the one that you got for your highs.
Right.
And you set your frequencies how you want in there. Do you go even further and EQ that effect as well? EQ that reverb with like a different EQ?
Yeah.
As
yeah,
well?
for sure, definitely. Like it just depends. It would vary every single time, but there's definitely EQ and compression on all my reverbs. Yeah. You just the goal is to make it all sound like you don't do anything for no reason. There's always a reason. Like if you're like, oh, it sounds like it's dull in between these two words, but you can't use delay. You just throw a long delay or a decay time on a reverb and like automate it up for that space. It's just like all about fit in the pocket and trying to make it sound like, you know what I'm saying? It goes with the instrumental.
Cool. Shout out Cesar, man. If y'all know Cesar, let's show him some love right now.
Yeah, real shit, man.
The question is, let's do that. Switch sides here. Is kind of going along the same thing with you've created space now. So I've heard you talk about plenty of times, and you've explained it to me a few times, but I feel like this is key, very, very key, as far as once I send you something and you do this, it sounds 10 times better. And this is the smiley face effect. When, why, and how.
When, why, and how. So like, when, I always use it. You know what I'm saying? I mix into that shit. So the smiley face effect, or the smiley face, the Pultec trick is boosting and cutting. You know what I'm saying? At the same time on your low end and your high end. So you're making a literal smiley face on your equalizer. You know what I'm saying? And by doing that, you make like the hot top end like super sheeny instead of like harsh, and then the low end you make like super punchy and impactful if you do it right and not booming.
Right. So let me say this then: if you didn't have your Pultec sitting right here,
yeah,
and
I'd
you
still
weren't
do it.
able to do it, you would go on.
Yeah, I do the
Pultec
plugins.
EQ
Yeah, just use any fucking
a stereo plugin.
Yeah, or you can even do it with like a SSL or a any of the plugins. Like you could do it with a stock plugin. You just make you would do a low boost, you know what I'm saying, and then the high boost, and then you just make the bands or the Q, you know what I'm saying, make the same thing. You're just shooting for a smiley face, and you're doing it to taste. There's not there's not a rule,
and
because
you started in the beginning saying boost and cut.
Yeah, you
attenuate.
You're boosting and like attenuating, and attenuating is compression as well. You know what I'm saying? It's like natural compression, because that's what they call it whenever you're squashing, and compression is attenuation as well. So basically you're boosting the low and then the high end, and you're attenuating the low and then the high end.
Right. So if you were to go 3 dB on boost, you're attenuating the same.
Yeah, or do it to taste. You feel me? Sometimes maybe 2.5, so you keep half a decibel of tube boost without compressing. It just is literally all to taste. Just like knowing that though. And then the difference between 30 and 60 and all these low and highs is like gonna be your genre. Like for hip hop, I would use the 30 because you want that sub-harmonic bass and shit. But then for like rock or something like that, or like a poppy beat, you do 60 because that's more of where the bass and the kick is. You feel me?
Sure. Okay. And
then top end like 10K, same thing. 10K for rap, 12K for more sheeny, top end pop shit.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So
good.
But mix into it, right? So
yeah. Like I'll mix into the SSL master bus compressor or a compressor. You know what I'm saying? And then do that before that at all times, and then I'll just tweak it at the beginning of the session and make sure that, you know what I'm saying, it fits the parameters. Like if you're tracking a full band, you can't start with that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? But if you're using an instrumental, you can definitely find where the frequencies reside and make a nice little spectrum to start trying to fit your vocals into.
For sure. So if people are making the instrumental, then
yeah, if you're making the instrumental, that's definitely not going to be helpful to start with. But like once you get your kick and your bass established, your groove, then you could turn that on and really start mixing into it, just so you have enough top end on to begin with.
How important is EQ on a vocal or a vocals bus? Because I know that we hear a lot of music, from everywhere, that the vocals are just not EQ'd, not compressed, and they're literally sitting on top of music. So explain the importance of that, and not just why it's important, but what it actually does when you just EQ a vocal.
So like deductive EQ is detrimental to your track. You feel me? Like using deductive EQ and removing the frequencies that are harsh to begin with, they're the boxy frequencies. or the frequencies that are gonna fucking go crazy whenever you start making your additive EQ.
Sure.
moves.
And this is like I'm talking about like a main vocal. So
yeah, bro. So like that's detrimental. You know what I'm saying?
EQ
I would do deductive EQ
first.
and yeah, first around like 350 to 500 areas, like almost every single fucking time you can bet on it that you're gonna have that. Then do your high pass or your high pass filter up to like 60 or 70 depending on your singer, maybe 80.
Yeah.
Sometimes 100. You feel me? And then you do your low pass, and that's just like a general start for me at all times.
And that's the first thing you do.
100%.
Boom. Deductive EQ.
Deductive EQ. Make it fit before you start adding shit.
For sure. I absolutely agree. So, in saying that, you know, you've done your deductive EQ. So, how important is additive EQ? And how unnecessary is it at times, too?
So, once you've got rid of all your frequencies that you don't want, it's like you're going to have to add some stuff back or you're going to sound almost dull. You feel me? So, like, it's important as well.
For sure.
You want to make the right additive EQ moves too, though. Make sure your mid-range is full because our ears really hear the mid-range more than you hear the low and this fucking high. So you would, like my general rule of thumb is boost 2 to 4K. You feel me? Once you've done your deductive EQ, I'll jump on an additive EQ like a SSL or API, do the 2 to 4K boost and just see where it sounds right. Wide Q, I mean just do it to taste. And then I'll do like a high shelf at 5 or 6, sometimes 7K.
Right.
Like 2 or 3 dB, just to get the top end back where it needs to go. And that's where having made the previous step, you know what I'm saying? If you don't deduct, then when you go to do that 5K or 6K shelf, you're gonna have a bunch of fuzz and it's gonna sound harsh as fuck, and all your consonants are gonna be like super percussive. Sound like a fucking instrument. So you gotta do deductive and additive EQ. That's the start on anybody's chain.
Next question. Explain to me the importance of busting your tracks, you know, and let's just talk about vocals, not about music or anything, just vocals, like
right.
For having, you know, a vocal bus, an effects, maybe a background vocal bus, and like maybe a hook bus, you know. Explain the importance of it or like why you do it.
So back in the old days, all the consoles had, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they still do. They've got the buses, and then the importance of that was you could take your tracks that you wanted, like your drum bus, and you could group them. They're essentially groups. And then once you have a balance within your mix of drums, then you don't really want to be fucking turning up 6 or 7 faders at a time. So if you have them in a bus, then you turn up 1. It's the same thing in the modern day DAW. You know what I'm saying? You fucking group essentially,
right.
Bus, and then you have macro control. So once you've done all your micromanagement on each individual track, then you send it to a big track, which is a bus. You have macro management, and then you can go, instead of having 100 tracks to deal with, maybe you only have 8 groups to deal with.
For sure. So if you have your background vocal bus and you realize that I just don't really want that much highs in my background vocals,
then you affect them as a whole.
For sure.
Then exactly. Then
unless
you start
you've done too much beforehand.
Right.
You have to go back.
This is all working on the assumption that you do it step by step and you.
Right, that you've done it correctly.
Right.
First, but so that busing is pretty important for me at least. I know, like, because you know you got vocals and one thing, but then you got your vocal effects. So
right,
like,
and then like some of the big guys will send, like if you have multiple compressors, they'll send it out, like different buses go to different compressors, like right off the bat. So their drum bus might go to their manly, you know what I'm saying, very mu compressor, and then everything else goes to the master bus compressor. So it just helps like that, because you don't want to be sitting on the patch bay wiring 40 or 50
for sure,
you know, individual tracks to it. It'd be much easier to do one stereo pair to that
or
compressor.
even on the flip side, if you're using a computer and you're putting a reverb track on every single vocal and mixing them in at 20%,
right, you're gonna have no processing power left,
right.
And it's not gonna sound as good as if you had taken that one signal that was combined, sent it to one reverb.
Signal.
Exactly. You're just
add
building
a
up
reverb to it on the same track. You gotta have it out in a bus. You gotta have it separate.
Right.
And then that's separate.
Right. So make your
bus
effects
to an
buses
effect bus.
as well.
Right.
Yeah. So you can make effects buses. That's extremely important as well, and then bus them to like an all effects bus.
For sure.
So then you have all your effects grouped as well. So it's all about, it's like a upward or upside down triangle. Like you start with a shit ton, and the idea is to get it down to like 2.
Right.
That's all you're doing, bro. You're getting it from however many tracks it starts as down to as many as you can make into 2. You know what I'm saying?
Get to that.
It's always going to be a 2 bus left and right at the very end. So you don't want to be working with 100 tracks and then trying to make it into 2. It'd be much easier to make it into 80 and then make it into 40 and then make it into 20 and then do 2.
So I've seen you do a couple times. You're still talking about buses, hook bus. You know what I'm saying? Why do you do that?
Because sometimes you would want your hook to be wider or have more reverb on it.
For sure.
Or have excitement on it, or maybe like send to a low vocal in the background, like a low auto-tuned, detuned vocal. Some weird shit, you know what I'm saying, that maybe the verses don't have, and you don't want to be sitting there grouping again to an effect. It's much easier to do that one.
For sure. So what do you send into your hook bus, essentially, as far as
my
your
hook
vocals?
lead? Really, my hook leads. Sometimes I'll do the hook lead, and then I'll have the ADT, the Waves ADT, which is in, I think it's like a double track. Yeah, it's a advanced double track or something like that. And it just does far left and far right, and then I'll combine those into my hook bus, and then I'll send those to reverb, or send those to delay, or send those to a mono slap. Some weird shit. It's always weird shit.
And then when you're sending those, you know, to the delays or the reverbs or whatever, you're just mixing in that reverb a little bit more on the hook, or
right.
The same reverb that you were using earlier, essentially.
Right. The level's just different on the
same
send
delays.
of how much level I'm sending, and it's wider because it's not a mono signal like the verse would be. It's a far left, a far right, using ADT, so there's no phase, and then the middle signal. It's like you know what I'm saying? That's an old technique that the Beatles used to use as well. It's just like using something different on your hook, yeah.
Now that we've talked about, you know, why busing's important, you know, you got all your effects in places, you got everything where it is. So, explain to me and really everyone, what is the importance of automation and maybe some of your techniques that you kind of set you aside, you know, when you do your music, that you think that automation is key, but most people wouldn't think about doing it.
You don't have to do automation, but it's better. Like, if you're gonna make good mixes, you need to.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Just like any of these techniques, you can apply and use them for the better or the worse. It's just like, you know, it's not detrimental though if you've done a good balance and there's not a lot of dynamics in your song, like there happens to be on a lot of like modern music. It's not gonna matter. But if you want dynamics and like lows and highs, then volume automation comes in handy. Automating delays to ring out at the end of certain words comes in handy. Like, these aren't just, you know, saying things you're just slapping all over and just leaving them on. They're like not on most of the time, and then you're bringing them in. Like, just certain little nuisances. Yeah, it's just, and if you want to make dynamics, then you use automation.
For sure, and like volume automation, you know, obviously you try to stay away from that as much as you can, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right.
But really with like delay automation, man, for me, like, man, if I didn't automate delays in my songs, it'd be dull. It would change the song completely. Yeah, and it's not like you even really notice before. You just kind of think you might hear, like, okay, you know, I'm gonna put some delay automation in there. But once you actually do it, and you realize, like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah, it's everything.
That's everything. And then like even further than that, you know, go back to you, like EQing those delays that are automated. You know, like,
yeah, for sure. Even automating the EQ on them. You know what I'm saying? You do a low pass, automate it all the way up, and you've got a crazy effect right there in itself. Like sometimes a hook isn't a hook until you add a quarter note delay behind it and start automating it up in between the phrases. Then all of a sudden you've got something that sounds like, you know what I'm saying, it came with the beat. You feel me? Like, it's just little tricks like that you start acquiring along the way, and I'm handing out for free right here. You feel me?
Yeah.
The one that you saw me do was like what, panning far left to far right on a
delay.
On a delay at the end of a song.
At the very end of a song.
It's just things like that, you know what I'm saying, that catch the listener off guard, and then they're like, "Fuck, what was that?" And then they get stuck listening to it again. You feel me?
Tried to do it slight, but I caught it.
You feel me?
He did it real quick.
And then like if you arm your track to begin with for automation, and like once you have everything set, you would do this. You would set your track, your whole entire track for automation, and then any moves you make throughout that are just off of instinct, then all of a sudden they're there, and then you just have to hit read.
Right.
And then bam, you've got what you just, you know what I'm saying, what your gut was. You don't even have to go into every single track and make minute adjustments one by one. You can just be like, fuck it, I'm gonna listen to it one time through, see what happens, see what I feel, and make those moves.
Absolutely.
Even master bus automation. Like sometimes if you've got a hook that you want to seem really loud, but you can't do it because the beat maker didn't make it with a lot of dynamics, you can keep it low until the hook, and then maybe raise it up to its full potential, and then bam, all of a sudden the listener thinks, shit, we've got a fucking pumping ass track, and you just made dynamics.
You changed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. That's cool. I never knew you did that.
Yeah, like pop mixing and shit. For sure.
Alright, so that's next question. You just kind of mentioned it real quick. Master bus compression and rear bus compression. So we've talked about it. We actually do have a video on YouTube about master and rear bus compression.
Go get that.
He talks, a lot about it, gave him some techniques, but I know that those techniques, for us at least, with the style of music that we're doing now from when we did it then, have changed.
Yeah.
So really, for the style of music, you're doing right now, that stuff where you want that cut through bass, upbeat, you want the cut through kicks, the cut through snare, that funky shit, what I'm saying? How are you, where are you wanting your meters to hit, so start with your rear bus, where are you wanting those things to be hitting at?
So, rear bus, for those of you who don't know, is when you drag all your tracks except for whatever tracks you want to leave out because they're going to affect the compressor too much. So like usually your bass to a track, and then you put a compressor on it, and you're going to shoot for like 12 to 16 decibels gain reduction. So the idea is that anytime the song, starts to pump, you're going to have this like squashed effect in the background that you have control of to make it seem like it has a little bit more oomph to it. So that's your rear bus. So 12 to 16 decibels of gain reduction would definitely be that, and then you want to turn it all the way down and just start to turn it up slowly until you you find that it's just adding, and then when you mute it, you take it away definitely, but then when you add it back, you can't really hear it. You feel me? It's just like little fucking, you're probably not gaining anything but like a decibel of RMS at the very end of it by the rear bus, but it's all like what you need in RMS. You feel me?
You're doing 12 to 16, you're letting it hit that?
Yeah, but then it's coming down, but it's never going to 0, so it's like always at 16 and then coming down to 12 at the quiet points and then going back up to 16.
See,
Again,
I'm in
that's
like the 8 to 12 range.
But that's see, you want to do more than that, definitely.
Right. Definitely, okay.
Definitely, because then you have phase. It's the same thing with double and vocals.
Sure, yeah. I keep it really low though. I can't get too much of that.
It seemed to work for you for sure. Those mixes you sent me sounded good, so.
For sure. Let's get it. There we go. So yeah, that's your rear bus. So you're saying let it hit in 12, 16. What about your like makeup gain on there? For example, like I'm using the SSL, just the plug-in.
Yeah.
I usually just leave it at 5, like what I'm saying, right on the middle on the rear bus. Is that
I usually don't use any makeup gain, but I'm gonna try it now that you said that shit. You feel me?
But on the master bus compressor, then where are you letting your master bus?
On the master bus, like 2 to 3 decibels. You know what I'm saying? It's just a fucking kiss with the compressor. It's not even.
Never hitting 4.
I mean, some songs you might find yourself hitting close to 4 on, or maybe even 5 because it sounds right. But I don't. I just let it touch it. I usually do a lot of compression in my bus stage. That way I don't have to use a lot of compression. Gotcha. I'll get the compressors to like work together in my buses, and then the 2 decibels that I started off the mix with my master bus compressor. You know what I'm saying? Just letting it do the fucking work. I don't ever go to like the end of the mix and then turn up the master bus compressor or anything unless I just want to.
For sure. Unless you just want to.
Yeah, it's never like a necessary thing.
And is it harmful to turn up your master bus compressor? Like the makeup gain on it?
I mean, nothing's harmful, bro. There ain't even no rules in this shit. You feel me? There's not like a rule book that says what you can do and what you can't. It's like if it sounds good, you need to.
Right.
There's like scenarios when you would need to.
I do it sometimes.
If you're using a compressor, the idea is you want to take away, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you're using it to squash, and then you would turn back up the makeup gain because you only wanted to use it for the effect.
Okay. See.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. You're using it to get
Like that. Like imagine the needle is a razor and it's like shaving off that amount of signal. You feel me? So every time it goes up to 4, you shaved off 4 decibels of signal. So do you want to add them back? What did you use the compressor for to begin with?
Right.
Was it to make something quieter because then you don't want to add your makeup gain back? Or was it to get the squash and pumping effect of the compressor because then you want to definitely add it back because you don't want to lose signal?
I got you.
Right.
I like it.
Yes.
Because Cause I know whenever you master this stuff, that shit comes back crazy.
It's just little steps along the way. Like a lot of people think you can put 2 plugins on something and then they're both gonna do the work. Nah, you gotta let one plugin do a tiny little bit of work, like 2 decibels. Maybe the next one you put on has 3 decibels. So if you looked at all the compression you got at the end of a chain, you might have 10 decibels of compression. Right. But if you just tried that with one plugin and did the 10 decibels, you know what I'm saying? It sounds completely different.
Without putting anything in your buses
right.
in the first place. I got you. All right, so my last question then.
Let's get it.
I think you talked about it in the last video a little bit, but really just, you know, multi-band compression. Just when do you use it? How do you use it? Why do you use it?
You use it to or I use it to glue whatever source I'm putting it on together. So I use it on almost everything. So a beat, if I need to make some of the lows a little bit less, so I can make room for the, you know, the vocals or something like that, or vice versa, the highs. You know, I'd use a multi-band compressor and then bring it down and then not turn back up the makeup gain. Right. See what I'm saying? So I'm just shaving off a tiny little bit of signal. I use it on everything. Master bus, I use it in mastering, like a Wave C4 or sometimes a Wave C6. You know what I'm saying? It just varies depending on what source I'm using it on. Definitely not a lot though. You don't want to go into a multi-band compressor doing 10 decibels of gain reduction. You feel me?
Little things here and there.
Right, and then sometimes like a trick I use, like on mastering, I'll turn up the high end with gain. You feel me? Like I'll add gain before the multi-band compressor, so then you get like this pumping effect by the multi-band compressor on the high. But you never actually gain high end. It's just like almost there, and the compressor squashes it. Multi-band compression is key. Always use it. Always. Sometimes before even using a deductive EQ. Okay. Real shit. Sometimes you can get rid, if you have a perfect vocal environment and you don't necessarily want to cut any frequencies out because you know you tracked it right.
Right.
You put a multi-band compressor on there, and then anything, you're never going to cut it out. You're just going to duck it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe cut a little bit of the signal off of it instead of just, whereas you have the EQ, you're slicing all the signal.
Right, you're taking everything.
Right.
Sure. And then you would just go deductive EQ after that,
yeah,
whatever you need to.
Yeah. Start with 3 bands, the Wave C4 or 4 bands. You know, keep it simple, and then just use the mode that they start with, and it basically breaks it down into segments.
Right.
Got your low, your mid highs, and then your highs. And then just go to your area that you're trying to cut or affect, and then there you go. You know what I'm saying? You can't really fuck it up. It's all to sound, or all to taste. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, bro. You already know what the fuck going on. Y'all go follow him, Precise Kirmss. If y'all have any questions, submit them. DM me, DM him.
For sure.
Let's fucking get it.
All we good. Oh yeah, and shout out to the people behind. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, Nick. You know what I'm saying? I almost said Saget.
We got Dalton over here. He just came back. You know what I'm saying?
Let's get it. Till next time.
Yeah.